Hello, this is Team 9. Last week, we learned about the structure of the underground parking lot. This week, let's see the structure of the above ground floors of Hanyang Sujain Apartments. The structure of the above ground floors at Hanyang Sujain Apartments can be broadly categorized into pilotis and wall structures. While the partial part of the first floor have pilotis, the residential areas on the upper floors have wall structures. Let's focus on the piloti structure for now. Before explaining the piloti structure, let me briefly describe the two construction methods of apartments: wall structure and column structure. The wall structures relies on walls without columns to support the ceiling. This type of structure tends to have more floor noise compared to the column structure. On the other hand, the column structure involves installing beams and columns horizontally to support the ceiling. This results in higher floor heights within each level, reducing the number of the household that can live in at the same height and making construction more complex. Therefore, at Hanyang Sujain Apartments, we plan to construct the apartments using the wall structure. When examining the elevation plan of Hanyang Sujain, we can see that pilotis are planned for a portion of the first floor. Additionally, looking at the layout, if there were no pilotis, people would have to take detours when moving in the apartment. This would be inefficient and cause inconvenience to residents. To address the inefficiency of these movement routes, pilotis have been implemented. Piloti is a structure in buildings with two or more floors when the entire or partial structure is supported by columns without external walls, allowing for an open space on the ground floor. While the upper floors have a wall structure, because of the piloti structure of the first floor, some or all of the wall elements do not extend down to the basement level, forming a piloti structure with beams and columns. In the piloti structure, there is an important aspect to consider: the vertical components of the building, which is the columns and walls, transferring the loads from the upper level to the foundation. In the case of a wall structure, multiple walls evenly distribute the loads, ensuring stability. However, in a column structure, a single column must transfer the loads from a larger area of the slab. Therefore, in Hanyang Sujain Apartments, where the lower floor feature a piloti structure, load distribution is important. Now, how is the load from the pilotis columns distributed in Hanyang Sujain Apartments, which has a wall structure? It is use of the transfer layer. The transfer layer, as the name suggests, is a layer where the structure changes, consisting of transfer beams and transfer slabs. It has a role in safely transferring the loads from the upper floors to the lower floors during the transition from a wall structure to a column structure, ensuring structural stability. The minimum depth of the transfer beam should be at least 550 mm, and the minimum thickness of the transfer slab should be at least 200 mm. The load from the upper floors of the piloti structure is transmitted to the pilotis column through the transfer beams and transfer slabs, applying compressive force from above. The pilotis column receives the load from the upper floors and transfers it to the lower levels. Most of the load on the pilotis column is essential to ensure sufficient strength considering the concrete strength and form. How would the construction process of piloti columns proceed at Hanyang Sujain? Before the construction of piloti columns, foundation work is required. This involves forming a foundation slab and placing steel reinforced bars to provide a base for supporting the PLT columns. The foundation slab is made of concrete and has role in distributing the load of the columns effectively. When executing this foundation work, the reinforced bars are protruded from the foundation slab to allow connection with the columns, ensuring their continuity. Next, reinforced bars are placed inside the PLT columns. The reinforced bars has a role in enhancing the strength and seismic performance of the PLT columns. Depending on the planning, reinforced bars are placed at appropriate diameters and spacing, and the length of the reinforced bar are adjusted according to the height of the PLT columns. To address the issue of concrete and reinforced bars being different materials, deformed bars are primarily used. Placing the reinforced bars are crucial, so we will explain it in more detail. First, we have to place the main reinforced bar vertically. These bars are connected to the protruding portion that are intentionally created on the foundation slab because of the connection between the slab and the columns. Additionally, some bars are protruded above the columns to facilitate the future connection with the transitional layers to be constructed on top of the columns. Once the main bars are installed, reinforced hook bars and 135-degree hooks are installed around the bars. These are installed to prevent damage caused by various moment-generating factors that can cause earthquakes. In this way, placement of reinforced bars are completed. Next, the formworks are installed to shape the exterior of the PLT columns. The formwork can be made of timber or steel and are installed according to the desired shape and size of the PLT columns. The formwork serves as a mold that helps shape the external form of the PLT columns when the concrete hardens. After the molding and reinforced bar placing, concrete is poured to form the PLT columns. The concrete, prepared with the appropriate mixture, is poured into the interior of the PLT columns. The concrete surrounds the reinforced bar and together with the mold shapes the external form of the PLT columns. After allowing sufficient time for the concrete to be hardened, the formwork is removed. Once the formwork is removed, the PLT columns are fully formed. Subsequently, the PLT columns has a role in transmitting the load of the structure and provide stability.
Next, let's look at the construction process for the transfer layer. There are two methods of transfer layer construction: transfer beam and transfer slab. Our site used transfer beam method. In order to construct the transfer beam, we have to install the formwork first to place reinforcing bars. Then, in order to connect the column to the transfer beam, the main reinforcing bar is placed at the corner part of the reinforcing bar, projecting from the column in advance, and the reinforcement surrounding the frame part connected to the main reinforcement is placed. We place the main reinforcement in order from the corner and immediately place a 135-degree hook perpendicular to the ground to fill the reinforcement one by one. When all 135 degrees hook reinforcement perpendicular to the main reinforcement and the ground is placed, we also place other 135 degrees hooks reinforcements perpendicular to the same previous hook to complete the reinforcement spine. After that, concrete is poured and placed just like a column, and the mold is removed to complete the shape. We have now seen the construction process of pilotic columns at Hanyang Sujain Riverpine Apartments. Thank you for listening.